Thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the California State University. Ms. Kiss, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Trustee Abrego. Trustee Carney. Chairman Day.
Present.
Trustee Eisen. Trustee Fagan. Trustee Farrar. Trustee Furstenberg. Trustee Fong. Trustee Garcia. Trustee Hinton. Trustee Kimpel, Lieutenant Governor Pinalakis, Trustee McGrory, Trustee Melendez de Santa Ana, Trustee Morales, Governor Newsom, Speaker Rundon, Trustee Sebelius, Trustee Simon, Trustee Steinhauser, Trustee Taylor, Superintendent Thurman, Chancellor White.
Here.
All right, Chairman Day, we do have quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Kiss. This is a time in which the board hears from public speakers. In fairness to all speakers who wish to speak, and to allow the committees and the board to hear from as many speakers as possible, while at the same time conducting the public business of their meetings within the time available, the public may address the full board during the plenary session on any non-agenda topic that is related to the university. The committee chairs and the board chair will continue to determine and announce reasonable limitations on the time for each speaker, and ceding, pooling, or yielding remaining time to other speakers is not permitted. The totality of time allotted for public comment during today's plenary session will be 30 minutes. Speakers will have 1 minute each for their remarks. A buzzer will indicate when a speaker's time ends, and I ask that speakers please yield the microphone so the next speaker may address the board. Ms. Kiss, will you please call the speakers?
Thank you. When I call your name, please come to either mic, and you may come in any order, and please also remember to please introduce yourself. We'll begin with William Blischke, Suzanne Till, Garrick Wilhelm, and Edmund Jacobian.
Good morning. I'm president of CSU IRFSA, and I'd like in my 60 seconds to cover 3 topics, if that's possible. First of all, we've existed for 34 years, and we've never had closer working relationships with Chancellor's office folks. I went and met with the provosts and academic VPs in San Luis Obispo and made a presentation. I met with the HR directors here, and I met with a number of other people. So we've got a good, close working relationship. CSU IRF has been kind of an invisible organization for too long, and you're helping us get the word out. As past president, I'm going to start what I call the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. We already have 23 types of volunteer time that our members contribute. I'm going to push voter registration. Young people are least likely to be registered and to get out to vote. And I'm also going to push census participation when they do the 2020 census, because there were 583,000 Californians who weren't registered as part of the census last year. I would also encourage you to look at the rest of my remarks on the June 1st issue of the Reporter, which will be on our website. It'll be out there on June 1st. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Suzanne Till. I teach college geography classes at Mater Dei Catholic High School near San Diego under California's high school dual enrollment program. The benefits of high school dual enrollment are many. It guarantees transfers of units to colleges and reduces the cost of college for families. This year we learned that San Diego's community colleges can no longer sponsor our college geography classes, which is a total bummer, my high school students are saying, since 93 of our students are registered for college geography classes next year. Unfortunately, San Diego State does not sponsor high school dual enrollment. My question to the board is simple. Can we partner with Cal State universities beyond the San Diego State service region? One program we really like is Sacramento State University. They have an awesome dual enrollment program called the AITS. We do prefer high school dual enrollment with Cal States, since most of our students do attend Cal States. And we also would like to encourage the Board of the Trustees to really take a close look at high school dual enrollment programs for high school students to save the cost of college. Thank you very much.
My name is Garrick Wilhelm, and I will now speak on my own behalf. Next week, I graduate from San Francisco State University at 49 years old. 10 years ago, I experienced some extreme mental health challenges, which led me to losing my housing. I struggled with homelessness and severe depression over a period of 5 years. It was the educational opportunities at San Diego City College and Alliant University that helped me to parlay my recovery from mental health challenges into employment in mental health services. After 2 associate degrees and a certificate, I found my way to the most woke university on the planet, San Francisco State. where I'm now completing a major in communication studies, a minor in global peace, human rights, and justice, and a certificate in conflict resolution. Accepting admission to the Communication Studies graduate teaching program, I'll be faculty in the spring semester of next year. And I'm in the process of starting a nonprofit organization that will provide educational counseling to youth recovering from homelessness. I share all this by way of appreciation for the Board of Trustees, for Chancellor White and his staff, and the work that you do. The CSU is the greatest system of higher education in the world, and the impact that it has on the lives of students is immeasurable. The impact that those students have on the state of California is the reason we are the California we are.
Hello, my name is Ejmin Hakobian, and I'm here to share my personal opinion. I want to ask you to limit your talks to 1 minute, especially the Vice Chancellor's presentations. You spent 2 days on patting yourself in the back, and then when the public shows up, you have only 1 minute for them to speak. I challenge you to make a point in 1 minute. Lastly, I need to stress this point. Impaction is excluding the demographic that needs access to the Cal State LA campus. You need to stop that decision. You can do it, and you cannot ignore this. If you ignore it, you're going to be faced with the political consequences, and the student leaders are going to be here challenging you on every single decision. You cannot hide behind your emails. You cannot hide behind your agenda items. Show up, talk to the students, and make change to that decision.
Thank you. Our next group of speakers, Rita Loof, James Fenelon, Jose Trinidad Castaneda, and Michelle Quiraceras.
I'm Ms. Rita Loof, and I'm the parent of a student with disabilities at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm here today to express my concerns about the Disability Resource Center at CPP. In my opinion, the DRC is not functioning well for students with disabilities. I have been dealing with the DRC on behalf of my student for the past 3 years, and it has been an uphill battle to get the very basic accommodations. Catholic schools are not generally known for being accommodating to students with disabilities, and I've been dismayed to find out that my student was getting more accommodations at a Catholic school than at Cal Poly Pomona. Decisions are left to each professor and not made with regard to student need. We have provided a 23-page neuropsychological evaluation by a PhD, and we've been told that it's not sufficient to warrant accommodations. Please look into the operations of the DRC at Cal Poly Pomona. They are not serving students.
Greetings. I am James Fenelon, Professor and Director of the Center for Indigenous Peoples Studies at Cal State San Bernardino. Ampeto Washtelo, it is a good day to speak from my dual citizenship as a Dakota and Lakota member of Standing Rock and as a military veteran of the United States and the great state of California in strong support of the land acknowledgement and recognition of Indigenous California peoples. The full acceptance and support for this resolution will not only bring awareness that all of these lands are built over California Indian nations, including the Mission and United States Culturicide and genocide systems, and the 20th century of erasure and exclusions of Native nations in our university system, but will begin the healing and revitalization necessary for us all to move forward through establishing task forces to address these issues, which my university has already begun. I encourage the CSU system and the Board of Trustees to unanimously accept this resolution for land acknowledgement and recognition of our California Indian nations. Mitako eo yasin.
Miriam, good morning. My name is Jose Trinidad Castaneda, and I'm a proud alumnus of Cal State LA. As a young Indigenous person, I had to resist the invisibilization of our history, culture, traditions, and identities on a daily basis. Making a land acknowledgement is a small but important first step in the reconciliation process between California's Indigenous peoples and those who came later. As we move further into the 21st century and place so much emphasis on welcoming recent newcomers into our country, it is more important than ever to look back and acknowledge the grave atrocities that early settlers committed against our nation's original inhabitants. We cannot truly celebrate being Californians until we recognize our history, including the shameful parts we might rather forget. Remembering to acknowledge the inhabitants whose land we've built our lives on is but one small thing we can do to reconcile an ugly past with a hopeful future. It is within CSU's responsibility as an academic institution to disseminate knowledge about Indigenous peoples and the institution's history with them. In closing, please adopt the resolution and practice We Are Invisible No More.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Sedes, and good afternoon, union relatives, as well as trustees and chancellor and presidents. I'm Chicana, Hopi, and Isleta del Sur descendant. I'm also the parent of an incoming transfer student at CSUN. So we have 3 points you heard from my relative speaking. We ask that the Board of Trustees and the chancellors and the presidents follow the best practices in the land acknowledgement resolution that you have received. If you need a copy of that, we can get you one. We are not asking for current land acknowledgement resolutions to be redrafted that have been done in a collaborative and respectful way. Humboldt, Long Beach, and San Marcos have such policies in place, and we applaud them. Second, that you take a stand today to move that this action be voted upon and outlined in the resolution at minimum by September 2019 Board of Trustees meeting. These acknowledgements are to be conducted at formal businesses. Lastly, we just ask that you do the right thing and that you vote on this and move it for discussion. Thank you.
Sharon Elise, Charmaine Lawson, Melina Abdullah, Antoinette Sadler, and Andrew Flores.
It is graduation day. Love, grace, and determination, along with the ancestors, carry Charmaine Lawson across the stage as she walks in place of her son to collect his diploma. She says, "This is for you, DJ." DJ was dedicated to a program that prepares students to be transformative leaders. There could be no greater legacy than to exact the principles DJ extolled and that his mother, Charmaine, even in her grief, has called us to enact: a welcoming campus, a safe and secure environment, racial diversification of the campus community, a campus curriculum culturally relevant to all students, resources for Black students, faculty, and staff to thrive, transparency about threats to the well-being and academic freedom of the campus. Graduation day, DJ is not here, not celebrating with friends and family, not setting off on a journey into a future he is not part of. Let us continue his walk. Let us commit ourselves to racial and social justice in his name. Say his name. David Josiah Lawson. Say his name.
David Josiah Lawson.
Say his name. David Josiah Lawson.
Ashe.
Ashe.
In the words of Audre Lorde, we cannot live without our lives.
Can we have our next speakers, please? Again, Charmaine Lawson, Melina Abdullah, Antoinette Sadler, and Andrew Flores.
Unfortunately, Charmaine, as you can imagine, given that Saturday was DJ's graduation and she walked for him, given that Monday would have been his 21st birthday, is a bit emotionally overwhelmed and will be unable to join you and speak with you today, but she does encourage the continued investment in Humboldt State and the continued investment in a safety program that addresses issues that both students, faculty, and staff have expressed at Humboldt State. And again, extends the invitation for Chancellor White and Chairman Day to visit Humboldt State again and to continue the dialogue with the students and the faculty and staff in addressing the issues they keep raising.
I would like to thank you for being here again and for sharing those words. And I would again also extend my acceptance of Charmaine's invitation to meet with her and the Attorney General. And so if you can convey that again to her, I stand ready to join with her in that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rocky Sanchez, Rich McGee, Tessie Reese, and Neil Jacklin, please.
If you could turn your mic on, please.
Good morning, Chancellor White, Board of Trustees, Presidents, brothers and sisters and guests. I'm Rocky Sanchez, VP for Representation, CSUEU, 26+ year employee, support staff at Cal Poly Pomona. In the 45 seconds that I have left, I want to know why the Committee on Collective Bargaining has been in closed session for at least a minimum of a year. I went back to 2014, and I've yet to see an open session on that. Why? Do you wish to keep our voices quiet? Newsflash, that's not going to happen.
Rich McGee. On April 11th, CSUU discovered that a full-time stateside employee at CSU Humboldt named Kevin Sanders, who'd been working as the broadcast engineer for KHSU, the radio station for both the campus in Northern California, suddenly had his position terminated without notice 3 days after your audit was completed and released. Once CSUEU became involved, Mr. Sanders was reinstated that day at his campus. However, 3 days later, we received a formal 90-day layoff notice citing lack of funds. How could CSUEU legally operate without a broadcast engineer? Who will do the weekly required EABs? Who will do the station logs? Even though CSU and KHSU Humboldt no longer broadcast locally, they still get their content from Chico State and Sac State. Not one iota has changed in the operation of that station. Ask Trustee Morales. He understands how radio stations operate. If you look at the ownership license for KHSU, last updated in 2015, it includes not only President Rossbacher, but also the following individuals. You may recognize some of their names: Jerry Brown, Gavin Newsom, Chancellor White, and the following Board of Trustees members: Day, Relia, Norton, Taylor, and Morales. You are equally responsible for this layoff, and we ask that you rescind it. As long as KHSU transmits, Kevin Sanders has a job to do. Thank you.
Good morning, Board of Trustees. My name is Neil Jacklin, President for CSU Employees Union. I normally would be speaking at the collective bargaining committee session, but we haven't had one in quite some time. I will repeat this probably next time we have that meeting. Let me begin by stating my growing concern that there is a lack of good faith participation in the meet and confer process. This is an important activity in labor relations both for unions and the university and the taxpayers. For more than on one occasion, the CSU bargaining team has arrived for a meet and confer session during this contract cycle, only to have the CSU team not be able to bargain in person due to a member of the team not traveling to the meeting location. Again, I'm concerned that there is a lack of good faith participation in the meet and confer process. Thank
you. Good morning. Tessie Reese, Unit 2 Chair from CSUEU, San Diego State. I probably won't need all of my 1 minute. What I would like to ask is to seriously take a look at the plenary. You give us certain time to speak, And that's the most important part, the plenary, where we get to speak about anything we want to. And you always have many, many people who want to speak. I would ask that you give up 15 more minutes of your valuable time to split over the time so that we have more than, I have 28 seconds, more than 1 minute to speak our mind. Thank you.
Our final speakers, Sergio Roldan, Shirley Staton, and Sandy Noda.
Good morning, Board of Trustees. My name is Sergio Roldan, Chair of CSUEU's Bargaining Unit 5, and I'm from the San Marino campus where I've served for over 25 years. Our campus recently lost a Bargaining Unit 5 member who died from a stroke. He served CSUSB with dedication for more than 30 years. His name was Al Alva. And although he could have retired 5 years ago, and he continued to work, hoping that CSU would take the right action and restore salary steps, which would afford him a better quality of life in retirement. Al died with this hope, which made his passing on the edge of retirement even more tragic. We hope that you, Chancellor White, the leader of the CSU, support restoration of steps for all union represented employees, whom you praise effusively with words in public, yet block efforts to increase their below market rate salaries. A stance that makes your stated commitment to equity ring hollow. Restore steps, Chancellor White. Live up to your expressed values of fairness and equity. Thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor White, Presidents, Board of Trustees, guests, and fellow brothers and sisters of the Union. My name is Shirley Staton, and I'm the newly elected Unit 7 Bargaining Chair Representative. I have served at CSU Fresno for 33 years. I am an accounting technician, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor White, Chairman Day, members of the Board of Trustees, campus presidents, union brothers and sisters, and guests. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sandy Noda, and I'm the current chapter president for the San Francisco State University chapter of the California State University Employees Union. I am here today before you not only because I share the same concerns of my CSUU leadership team has shared with you both today and yesterday, but I'm here to thank President Wong for his service to San Francisco State University. Many have come before this body to criticize President Wong, but few have come before the board to talk of the good that he has done. So I'm here to do just that. I remind my leadership that the president has always been supportive of CSUU. That support is not necessarily evident in the headlines or the news articles. For example, prior to our 2017 three-year contract cycle, the president came to CSUU and let us know that he had planned to have every employee make $15 an hour. So in 2017, when it was negotiated that the employees should be making at least $15 an hour, President Wong had already taken care of that for our employees. I remember one of the first changes President Wong made was that he removed the campus security guards from the administration building so that the employees and guests would feel welcome at our campus. I would and still do see him walking around the campus without an entourage, talking with students, staff, and faculty. Many moons ago, one of the major decisions that the president made was to close our science building. While he was criticized for doing so, I was grateful that he thought of the employees' health first. Under President Wong's leadership, this will be the third year that staff will be recognized for their years of service. This program was absent at our campus for so many years. Lastly, in addition, President Wong has helped to ensure that there are staff representatives on hiring committees. Both he and I know that the staff voice is an important part of shared governance. President Wong has met with me personally, my leadership team, and our chapter membership, and heard and acted upon our concerns. Over the years, we have built a relationship of trust, respect, and a love for Gator basketball. While I know President Wong will not miss hearing from me, I will miss the honest and respectful conversations both in person and by email. So once again, please join me in thanking President Wong for his years of service and wish him well on his upcoming retirement. Thank you.
Thank you to all speakers. That concludes public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Kiss, and thank you to all the public speakers. We appreciate you taking time to visit with us, and your input is very valuable. Now move into our reports, and I'll kick it off with the chair's reports. As most of you probably know by now, mental health is a topic I care about deeply. One of the goals I set out to accomplish during my time on this board is to focus on the mental health needs of our students, faculty, and staff. With it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's fitting for an update on this institutional priority. This time of year, we see more attention to the issue, and this is attention which is so desperately needed. About a week or so ago, and I don't have much spare time, but I happen to have some spare time and was watching the NBC Nightly News, and it highlighted a tragic but inspirational story that resonated with me. In 1985, Bertha Loaiza was just 3 years old when her mother jumped off of San Diego's Coronado Bridge, holding little Bertha in her arms. Her mother had committed suicide. But miraculously, little Bertha survived the 246-foot plunge. She grew up with no memory of that day, and her family, overcome with shame, kept her mom's suicide a secret. She learned the truth when she was 17 years old. Today, Bertha has dedicated her life to breaking that silence. She has started a bilingual suicide support group to help people move beyond the shame and stigma that so often surrounds suicide and mental health within the Latino community. The reporter shared some troubling facts. A recent national survey found that 69% of Latinos believe depression and anxiety are caused by personal weakness. And experts say this misconceived taboo can keep them from seeking help, with only 1 in 11 Latinos receiving treatment for mental illness. College is inherently a stressful time for young people, with additional social, academic, and financial pressures. And it can be particularly daunting for the CSU's diverse student body. Among undergraduates, more than half are people of color, and 1/3 are first-generation college students. They come from families like Bertha's. Think about it for a moment. Statistically, young adults and college students are already more likely to suffer from mental illness. And then consider the fact that so many CSU students come from backgrounds where they are statistically less likely to seek help. These sobering statistics illustrate why the work the CSU is doing to bring mental health issues to light is so critically important. Last month, we held the first ever meeting to connect CSU campus-based mental health providers with their county mental health department colleagues. Much of my motivation for pulling together this meeting stems from my decade of service in county government. I know firsthand the remarkable work county employees perform day in and day out, especially in the field of mental and behavioral health. CSU and county mental health directors, CSU campus counseling staff, and campus leadership came together for the first time ever to discuss best practices, common challenges, and ways to overcome barriers to improve access and services for college students confronted with mental health challenges. They also explored opportunities for collaboration similar to CSU San Bernardino's partnership with San Bernardino County, through which the county provides intensive case management services to members of the campus community in need of psychiatric crisis care, beyond that which the campus can feasibly provide. Going forward, campuses and counties are planning additional meetings to connect, collaborate, and create new partnerships for the benefit of our students and our communities. From this initial meeting came the following important next steps. First, Campuses in their local counties will maintain regular, planned communication regarding college student mental health programs, services, and resources. Next, campuses in their respective counties will set up an in-person meeting before the end of this calendar year and will work together to establish regional gatherings. And finally, there is a commitment to continue this momentum through an annual statewide meeting. This initial convening was critical, and it has established a solid foundation upon which to build strong and dynamic partnerships between the CSU and county mental health providers for years to come. And I look forward to seeing and reporting what comes from this ongoing collaboration at future meetings. CSU students are also providing input and creative ideas to support mental health and well-being. Recently, San Francisco State student James Giedemer won first place in the Arts and Designs category at the CSU Student Research Competition for his research on student mental health services. James developed new ways to provide students with easier access to a more robust network of resources, including existing formal counseling services augmented with a variety of low-cost, informal support options. I would like to congratulate James for his dedication and his award. CSU students have also recently been honored for their efforts to serve global social and political challenges. Student teams from Sacramento State, Sonoma State, and Cal Poly Pomona recently earned top honors, the Outstanding Delegation Award, at the National Model UN Conference in New York. At the conference, the CSU delegations joined thousands of other students from across the globe to debate pressing world issues. I know these students will continue to make the CSU proud well after graduation. So many alumni who have participated in the Model UN have gone on to serve our state, nation, and world as intelligence and military officers, diplomats, attorneys, and investigators. And while on the topic of service, I'd like to transition from our students to our employees, highlighting our campus police officers for a moment. We know our campus police go above and beyond the call of duty every day to keep our campus communities safe. But did you know the CSU also has a decorated police running team? Every year for the past 2 decades, CSU police from nearly every campus have gathered to compete as a unified team. I almost said uniform team, against other police departments from across the globe in the notorious Baker to Vegas competition. It is a grueling 120-mile relay race through the desert from Baker, California to Las Vegas. And in the law enforcement community, the bragging rights that come along with winning it are pretty staggering, and they're a big deal, to put it mildly. And our CSU PD team, consisting of runners and volunteers from 17 of the 23 campuses, is among the most decorated. You guessed it, they won again this year, their 4th division title in the last 7 years. And I'd also like to add that the runners and support staff use their own time and money to train and compete, so no need to worry, there's no state funding here. So congratulations to our CSU team for taking the title once again. Stories like this one illustrate the strength of the CSU. We are made up of 23 campuses, each impacting their communities in a myriad of ways. But it's when we come together as one CSU family that the true power of this university is felt. When we leverage our size, nearly 500,000 students and more than 52,000 employees, we have the power to affect change in a big way. As I reach the halfway point in my tenure as board chair, or maybe the end, depending on how you vote next, I reflect back on these stories that I've had the privilege to share with you, and I'm already thinking of ones yet to be told. Stories that can only begin to relay the totality of how the CSU benefits the people and communities of California. That concludes my report. Chancellor White, will you please offer your report?
Thank you, Chairman Day. As I begin, it is my duty under the Education Code to report to you approved changes in admission practices before those changes can be enacted. All campuses have complied with the provision to the Ed Code that requires a series of public hearings and public disclosures in advance of submitting their final program impaction requests. and have been approved to implement these changes in admission practices for the 2020-21 academic year. The following campuses provided justification and received permission to impact additional academic programs beginning with the fall 2020 term. Los Angeles, all programs and majors. San Marcos, biotechnology, software engineering, and electrical engineering. The following campuses provided justification and have received permission to update their supplemental admission criteria for academic programs beginning in the fall of 2020. At Channel Islands, the nursing programs. At East Bay, the nursing programs. Fullerton, likewise, the nursing programs. And at San Jose, animation/illustration, business administration, the engineering programs, kinesiology, psychology, public health, and social work. Through the annual impaction review process, 2 campuses have discontinued impaction for levels and academic programs for the 2020-21 academic year. The following academic programs will no longer be impacted beginning with the fall of 2020. At San Francisco, biology, biochemistry, chemistry, criminal justice studies, and sociology, and at Sonoma, the upper division transfer. Look, it's never easy to report the impaction of additional programs anywhere within the California State University. And I'm pleased that San Francisco and Sonoma have been able to discontinue impaction for certain levels and programs. As we all know, impaction occurs when the demand for our learning environment outpaces our capacity. It is a resource-based constraint we deal with the best we can. That's why Governor Newsom's May revision and the legislature's proposals are so significant and a source of great optimism. As we heard reported here yesterday, the governor has affirmed his January commitment to boldly invest in higher education and the California State University, and has approved additional recurring funds to help meet emergency student housing and to support Project Rebound. And with the Senate and Assembly proposals announced just in the last few days, it is becoming increasingly likely that additional investments in Graduation Initiative 2025 and student access will be included in the final budget agreement. Indeed, this is reason for optimism. With additional resources, we can serve thousands more Californians who simply want a chance at the opportunities higher education brings. And as our students powerfully demonstrate again and again, when given that chance and with the support of our remarkable faculty and staff, they will overcome seemingly insurmountable odds to succeed. Each commencement season gives us countless examples of this, and this year is no different. Let me share briefly just 3 stories with you. Mary Gibaldi was enrolled at Chico State's master's program in English Studies. Last fall, in addition to her own coursework, she was teaching 2 high-level English courses, serving as president of the English Graduate Student Council and working as the assistant director of the ESL Resource Center. Then on November 8th, the campfire. That morning, Mary and her husband fled the Paradise, California home where they were living, still dressed in their pajamas. They saved their dogs, but nothing else. Everything was lost. Somehow, despite this devastating loss, Mary moved forward to earn her degree. She credits the sense of home and family she found at Chico State's English department. Quote from her, "They rallied around me and made sure I made it through and accomplished what I needed to accomplish," she says. "I'm convinced I couldn't have done it anywhere but Chico State." Last week, Mary delivered the student address at Chico State's College of Humanities and Fine Arts commencement ceremony, and she looks forward to starting her PhD program at Ohio State in the fall. A college degree was not in the cards for O'Shea Rogers. He'd grown up in poverty. His senior year in high school, troubles at home had him living in a sleeping bag in the storeroom of a local business. A school guidance counselor told him that he had too many strikes against him to succeed in college. O'Shea's uncle eventually took him in on the condition that he continue his education. He enrolled at Cal State Northridge and was instantly inspired by the academic setting and intellectual exchanges with faculty and peers. Turned out he just needed a chance. He was named a University Scholar. In 2016, he became a CSU Trustee Award recipient, and 2 days ago, he graduated with a baccalaureate in history. O'Shea starts graduate school this fall at UCLA and wants to become a teacher. Quote from him, "If I can just touch one life, I know that person will touch other lives, and I've done my job." Tammy Lynn was in Sacramento County Jail, 28 years old, the mother of 3 young children, illiterate, and facing 10 years in prison for dozens of crimes she had committed since starting to sell drugs to support herself at age 14. She had spent most of her life running away from group homes and psychiatric hospitals. She had never set foot in a high school. She asked for a Bible. She was given an easy-to-read version. She pored over that Bible, carefully sounding out the words, slowly teaching herself how to read. A love for learning was kindled. Tammy earned her high school equivalency in prison, enrolled in community college upon her release, and transferred to Sac State in 2015, where President Nelson is one of her greatest advocates. In fact, his letter to then Governor Jerry Brown played a significant role in Tammy being granted a full pardon for her crimes in December of 2018. Tammy is a champion for others, and being a part of our Project Rebound and Guardian Scholars Program shows that, says President Nelson. A lot of people are trying to turn their lives around. She's trying to move forward, and that makes her exceptional. Tammy graduated last week with a bachelor's in psychology. She says she never wants to leave Sac State. She hopes to enroll in graduate school at her alma mater and would love to work on campus in any role where she can help other students achieve their dreams. As these 3 stories so powerfully demonstrate, if just given a chance, Cal State students will succeed, sometimes against the longest of odds, and embark upon lives rich with promise for themselves, their families, their communities, and for the future prosperity of California and our nation. So, sometimes it's also the generosity of Cal State's friends and supporters that give our students that chance. I want to take a moment to recognize 2 extraordinary friends of the CSU and of San Francisco State, George and Judy Marcus. The Marcuses' transformative gift of $25 million will establish the George and Judy Marcus Funds for Excellence in the Liberal Arts at San Francisco State, endowing 4 faculty chairs and supporting research and renewed facilities. This is just the most recent example of the Marcuses' generosity. They are the campus's largest donors ever, and they've contributed to the CSU in so many ways beyond their philanthropy. George is a former trustee and member of the CSU Foundation Board of Governors, and Judy is a member of San Francisco State's Foundation Board of Directors and a longtime volunteer. Their contributions are far too many to list in this limited time, so I simply say to George and Judy, thank you for your generosity and for your decades of dedicated service to the California State University. In closing, I would be remiss if I did not once again recognize the 4 others here today for their dedicated service. We've said thank you already to these 4 valued members, to Trustee Hinton, to President Haynes, to President Wong, and to President Rossbacher. I'm grateful for you and your skilled, insightful, and inspired leadership, all you've taught us as we work together on things that matter. The California State University and the campuses for the presidents are stronger because of your service. I thank you and wish you all the best. Chairman Day, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chancellor, for an excellent report as always, and especially those 3 stories. I'd like to now hear the report of the Academic Senate. Dr. Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Day. Good morning, everybody. Pleased to update you on the activities of the Academic Senate CSU as usual. I'd like to begin by congratulating all CSU graduates and wish them well as they commence the rest of their lives. We had quite a busy plenary week last week, 5 guest speakers, 7 committee reports, 3 liaison reports, and action on 15 resolutions, all within 1.5 days. I'm not sure that's a record, but it was quite a ride. You have a summary of our resolutions, so I'll highlight just a few here. To begin, we passed 3 resolutions that emphasize the importance of continuing the conversation about ethnic studies, racism, and campus climate in the CSU. The first resolution affirms a commitment to ethnic studies as beneficial curricula that deepen the educational experience of all CSU students. It also indicates that the ASCSU, while opposed to legislative intrusion into the curriculum, shares the concerns of Assembly Members Weber, Gloria, and Medina about the importance of ethnic studies to the CSU curriculum that led to AB 1460, the bill mentioned yesterday that establishes a 3-unit CSU ethnic studies graduation requirement. Finally, the resolution recommends to next year's ASCSU that they work in collaboration with campus senates to revisit the Ethnic Studies Task Force report to establish recommendations for ethnic studies curricula through faculty-driven processes of shared governance. The second resolution acknowledges the compelling need to recognize racial, ethnic, age, social class, gender, sexuality, disability, and religious-based biases, and encourages the 1920 Executive Committee to offer a CFA Interrupting Racism workshop or its equivalent at our September plenary. Such work is necessary in order to provide an effective learning environment for our students, especially those from historically marginalized communities. The third resolution urges the Chancellor's Office and campuses to take a series of steps to foster a safe and welcoming campus environment for Black and African American students. The resolution is born out of continued reports of racist incidents directed toward Black and African American faculty, staff, and students that contribute to an unwelcome and unsafe campus climate and that negatively impact recruitment, retention, and graduation rates. All 3 of those resolutions passed unanimously. With regard to the General Education Task Force report, we also considered 2 resolutions regarding the report and how to proceed with it. One resolution was designed to receive the report and recommend to next year's Executive Committee that it be referred to our appropriate standing committees for further review and consultation and recommendations, if any. Based on feedback from campuses posted to our website, and that includes 12 campus Senate resolutions urging us either to reject the report or take no action on it, the second resolution was modified to simply reject the report. Through a series of parliamentary steps, including the always entertaining substitute motion process, both resolutions were narrowly rejected. So at this point, the report has no official status. The 1920 Executive Committee will evaluate where we go from here over the summer. In the meantime, we encourage anyone still engaged in developing feedback to the report to continue to do so and post the results on the feedback webpage. That way, all who wish to have their voices heard for the record will have the opportunity to do so. In another resolution, we express our continued support for the CSU Board of Trustees' commitment to, and I quote, the strategic advantage of the distinctiveness of the 23 campuses of the California State University system, end quote, and request that the system leadership honor this commitment when considering system conformity versus campus distinctiveness in matters pertaining to academic functions and practices. We see a recent trend that indicates a backing away from that commitment, and we do not believe that is in the best interest of our students or the CSU, because it disregards the distinctive characteristics of the individual universities, their histories, their students, and the broader populations they serve. That resolution also passed unanimously. We also passed a resolution regarding transfer and engineering curriculum in which we urge campuses to grant students completing associate degrees aligned with one of the 4 engineering model curricula for transfer the same admissions eligibility advantage as for students who have completed a transfer model curriculum yielding an associate degree for transfer, so long as no more than 3 lower division GE courses are postponed to post-transfer. Another resolution recommends a 4-year mathematics quantitative reasoning requirement for admission to the CSU and commends the Chancellor's Office for the consultation process and data-informed policy development surrounding implementation of the requirement, which is to follow. It also urges that steps be taken to ensure that any policies developed to reform the A through G admission standards with respect to this requirement mitigate any adverse impact on underserved students. We also passed a series of other resolutions about the SD Bechtel Foundation's support and commitment to California teachers and students through the programs and initiatives they've sponsored, the Academic Senate of the California Community College's interest in the possibility of adding a requirement similar to our American institutions requirement to their AA degrees, an open access policy built on the Harvard and UC open access models, hiring qualified contingent faculty, librarians, coaches, counselors, emeriti, and staff for consulting assignments, continued work on the Student Success White Paper, and the establishment of a work group on the impact of artificial intelligence in higher education. We also held our leadership elections for next year. The results, yours truly, Catherine Nelson, Sonoma State, as chair, Be nice to see you all again for the next year, I'm sure. Vice Chair Rob Collins, San Francisco. This is also a re-election to a second year. Beth Steffel, San Bernardino, as Secretary. Darlene Yee Melikar, San Francisco, as Member at Large. And Tom Norman, Dominguez Hills, as Member at Large. In conclusion, I'd like to get back to a theme that I've visited before in my reports and that's been visited time and time again in the last couple of days. And this has to do with the patterns of behavior and the systemic patterns of power that we see in this institution and, quite frankly, in any other institution you're going to be encountering as you walk through this world. On a somewhat lighthearted note, and continuing on the gender theme as we celebrate our women presidents, I can't help but wonder if the word swagger has ever been used to describe their approach to their work. I Googled it, and there's at least one reference to it being a gendered term. On a less light note, and I have rewritten this so many times, I'm just going to put it out there. Just in the last week, I've been told about faculty and other colleagues' experiences of absolutely blatant racism, sexism, ageism, and more. And I know I shouldn't be surprised none of this is new, but it just indicates how much work we still have to do. So trying to end on a positive note, I look forward to our continuing journey, embracing its challenges, its difficulties, especially around the kinds of themes I've been talking about in the last couple of minutes. And to quote a colleague, joining you in bending the CSU more toward justice. Thank you, Chair Day. That ends my report.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Of the CSSA, Mia Kajanis, President.
Thank you, Chair Day, and good morning, everyone. As always, CSSA is thankful for the opportunity to speak and share some updates with you. As we all know very well, this is a time of commencement and transition. Our students are walking across the stage and having their degrees conferred. Our students are also taking up new leadership positions and looking to current and ongoing leadership for wisdom. At our recent CSSA plenary, CSSA elected a new executive board that I'm excited for all of you to meet in the coming months. We will have Michael Wiafe from San Diego State University as our president. We will have Zara Karabit of Cal State Northridge as our chair, Michelle Tran of CSU San Marcos as VP Finance, Grace Pang of San Jose State as VP of Legislative Affairs, and Wanola Ologunju as VP of University Affairs. I am confident they will have strong leaders to carry the torch forward next year. This is a time of reflection for all of us, reflecting on the progress that's been made by our hard-labored efforts, looking to the future for what problems and eventual solutions may arise, and acknowledging our strengths and values that have gotten us through the challenges of yet another year. I myself have reflected quite a bit on my time at Sacramento State and at the Cal State Student Association. It's funny to think about where my story began. You may recall that in my first report to all of you, I shared my quote-unquote story. I was working back-to-back double shifts at Chili's, working hard to afford school with my sister after we moved halfway across the country for a CSU education. It was a lonely time for me as a freshman. I resented my situation because I didn't have time to make friends or join a club because I was working so much. But I did have time in between classes to conduct a little social experiment and try to make friends in a very passive way. But that was that I sat outside of the riverfront patio at Sacramento State with a sign that said free conversations. I was hoping that any student would drop by for a chat, and no one did. Not until I started to pack up my things and head to class did someone stop me to say hello. That brief exchange with a peer gave me this jolt of confidence that had me march right into the University Union, where I came across the student-run radio station, KSSU, and decided to sign up for a radio show spot right then and there, just out of sheer confidence from a conversation. I ended up curating a show called the Mighty Mia Power Hour, which was an hour strictly dedicated to powering up your Monday morning. It was my 1 hour a week where I could use my voice to share perspectives and encouragement to help others get through their tough days. It didn't matter who was tuned in and listening to me or not. To this day, I'm still convinced that my mom was the only one that was listening. But really, it was about sharing values and ideas for others without limitation. And today I am here before you as the president of the Cal State Student Association, stewarding the voice of the whole, where I have had the greatest honor of sharing values and ideas of our students. Only this time, it does matter who is tuned in and who is listening. This year, we have seen what it looks like when students amplify their voices in pure, candid, and natural ways for the issues that they face as a collective. We have seen groups of students address this board requesting partnership on financial aid reform, asking the CSU to take a seat at the table. We have asked to not be the radio static in the background, but a song that resonates with all of you. It is true that the financial barriers students face are arguably the most significant and will hopefully have more airtime on this issue in the future. I ask that you tune in and turn up the volume on what our students are saying. As a predecessor of mine, Taylor Herron, once described, shared governance is actually pretty simple. Initiating shared governance is equal parts action as it is kindness and inclusion. This year, students have changed the meaning of shared governance to no longer be a buzzword, a threat, or an expectation. But we have taken shared governance to mean our student-led responsibility to extend an invitation to you all to participate in our decision-making as well. I want to impart that your voice at our table is necessary and valuable to our work, just as the student voice is necessary to yours. I encourage you to redefine what shared governance means in your work. I encourage you to attend our CSA plenary meetings in the future. I encourage you to share our space and your voice in matters that provide our student leaders with the context to be fierce partners with this board. I've learned that being a leader of a system, like all of you in your roles, as I am in mine, we have the agency to be leaders of consequence. Good or bad, we do not have the luxury of being anything but consequential leaders. Our stakeholders need to see progress, data, impact, and standards. And our students need to see bold, fierce, and proactive decisions. None of these actions come without consequences, but that is what we are here to do. I myself have worked hard to be a leader of consequence this year. To have you all agree with me or my peers was never my goal, but to be your partner has been, and I'm forever grateful to have learned from this partnership. To Dr. Blanchard, you've shown what it means to be a consequential leader when you sought understanding in my cause in times of competing priorities and great responsibility. You are a true advocate for our students. To Trustee Eisen, you've shown what it means to be a force to be reckoned with for our students and our institution by standing up boldly for general education programming that would revolutionize a CSU education for the betterment of our students. You are a true role model to students and have become a dear friend over the past 3 years that I've had the privilege of serving on committees with you. To EVC Relier, you have been a leader of consequence by always sharing a smile and warm perspectives. You have made an impact by always meeting with my team and I. No matter how much involvement you had in our particular issue, you showed unwavering kindness and guidance no matter what. To Trustee Taylor, you have been a leader of consequence by teaching me that the map is not the territory. Chair Nelson, thank you for inspiring our students and I to be bold and not to fear judgment if we speak the truth. Trustee Fong, you have brought kindness and openness to our exchanges and your contribution this year, making you a leader of consequence as well. Chair Day, you have been a compassionate and consequential leader by being an advocate for the Justice for Josiah movement, supporting mental health, and supporting students, family, and community as one whole. And lastly, Chancellor White, you have been a consequential leader by calling me after class one night from Asia to ensure that my voice was amplified in your state advocacy meetings. That call was a very formative moment for me and in our shared governance, and I'm grateful to you for your thoughtfulness and your candor. Many of you are making an impact each day in big ways and small, and in some ways you might not even realize. I ask that you share the trustee and administrative story with our students as well. I would like to thank you all for your courage and consequential leadership. I now have the distinct privilege of formally recognizing our consequential and transformational leaders who our students have been impacted by. Each year, the Cal State Student Association Board of Directors, comprised of the 23 CSU student representatives up through the democratic process of elections on their campus, has recognized the commitment and contributions to student success made by members of our CSU community. Today, I am honored to present awards to 3 individuals who have been integral in advancing our mission of advancing the student experience. So we're going to go through the 3 awards, and once you hear your name, if you can please join me at the podium, my chair, Joe, and I will offer you your award. Administrator of the Year. So this year, CSSA recognizes an administrator who has served California State University students for over 25 years at multiple campuses and currently at the Office of the Chancellor. As you might suspect, our Board of Students takes on a wide variety of student issues, many of them difficult to navigate in many ways. This year's recipient literally meets us where we are at every month across the state at our board meetings, providing us with the information and insight to ensure we are successful, always supporting students in understanding and addressing the most pressing issues. I'm delighted to present this award to a true partner in student success. Please join me in congratulating the 2018-19 Administrator of the Year, Ray Murillo, Director of Student Programs and CSU Office of the Chancellor. Next, we have our Faculty of the Year Award. Faculty are central to the experience of CSU students, as you all are aware. With the right professors, students are liberated and empowered to achieve the impossible. While consensus among students is that this year's recipient is the best professor they've ever had, there is some debate about why. Some say it's his dynamic and engaging teaching style, while others point to his care and compassion. I'm happy to present this award to an individual who challenges every student, staff, and faculty member to consider how our histories, culture, and traditions breathe life into every academic discipline. It is not just what we learn, but how we learn. Please join me in recognizing the 2018-19 Faculty of the Year, Dr. Robert Keith Collins of San Francisco State University. Chair of the CSU Academic Senate, will you accept this award on his behalf? Lastly, we have the Robert C. Maxson President of the Year Award. Named in honor of former Long Beach State President, the Robert C. Maxson President of the Year Award recognizes a campus president whose leadership reflects a commitment to students and demonstrates exceptional inclusion of students in shared governance. When asked why this year's president was a deserving of the honor, Student Body President Alicia Sharma stated, kind of giving it away, this year was devastating for our campus community. We found ourselves in the midst of the most destructive wildfire California had ever seen. While thousands were fleeing the area, our president drove into the chaos, into the confusion for us. The students, the campus, the community. That is leadership. Even during this incredibly difficult time, she helped me discover my voice. She made me feel like I mattered. President Hutchinson is the heart of Chico State. That was from the AS president. In my experience in Washington, D.C., This particular president inspired me and took a genuine care in my perspective and in my success, making me feel a part of the Wildcat family, although I'm a Hornet. She is a truly special person, and I am honored to have learned from her this year. With that, please join me in recognizing the 2018-19 Robert C. Maxson President of the Year Award to Dr. Gail Hutchinson.
Thank you. So good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. It's hard to make What's Wildcat always like? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Finally, I'd like to recognize a member of the Board of Trustees who has been, of course, a fierce advocate for students, as they always are, our voting student trustee, Emily Hinton, for her unwavering commitment to students. Of her many titles, including Council President, Associated Students President, and Woman of the Year, Emily most proudly and comfortably wears the title of Advocate. Emily, even during her own struggles with homelessness and food insecurity, you fought for the basic rights of others. Your legacy is not only to be reflected in the state budget, but in the grateful lives of CSU students. We, the students, are indebted to you for your service and congratulate you on your recent graduation from Sonoma State. Thank you. We have something for you. Yeah. So as you can see, we have some pretty spectacular people in the room. Many of you also deserve awards and will be recognized. But I think this is a really special moment to acknowledge some of the efforts that have really been monumental this year from our leadership. And really, I think it's special because our student board of directors has made these awards, and they have seen all of your commitment, how you've made them feel, how you've included them in your conversations, and really just how you've cared for them as individuals as well as a collective. So I'd like to close by saying that the value of me holding that free conversation sign as a freshman has more consequences today than I had ever even imagined. It led me to share this incredible experience with all of you. And really, it turns out that free conversations in a solid community, like the communities we have in the CSU, are not quite free, but they come at a cost. Our words matter, our work matters, this board matters, and all of you, your time and effort and commitments that you've made to our students matter. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you each and every meeting and for sharing this last conversation with me together. With that, I say Vox Veritas Vita. Be safe, be kind, do good. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mia. Thank you for making all of us cry, and thank you for your service and dedication to the CSU and to the CSSA, and to your leadership team. Thank you for recognizing some pretty special people for some well-deserved honors, and congratulations to the new leadership team as you take office. Look forward to working with you. We'd now like to move to the report of the CSU Alumni Council. Michelle Power, please.
Thank you, Chairman Day.
And Mia, I don't know whether to be angry or so incredibly proud that you made me cry before my first report, but congratulations, Gail, incredibly well-deserved. It is my pleasure to be with you as the new Alumni Council President. I'm a proud graduate of CSU Chico. My degree in psychology and minor in human resources prepared me for a successful career in business and leadership. My husband and I own a cafe, Bidwell Perk, and are so honored to do business in our amazing community. Gentry, my husband, and I met while at Chico State, and we have the fondest memories of our Chico experience. As I begin my time as president of the Alumni Council, I look forward to working with each of you to support our today's students, our future alumni. I have several updates regarding the Alumni Council to share with you. First, with the resignation of Trustee Nylon, the Alumni Council is working to fill the remainder of his term, which runs through June 30th, 2020, with an interim alumni trustee. The Alumni Council meets next week to take action on this item, and I will share the results of that election with you. In the fall, we will begin soliciting nominations from campuses for candidates to serve the next full term through 2022. I'd also like to take a moment now to highlight this year's alumni featured in the Made in the CSU, our ongoing repository of CSU alumni who are key leaders in their field. Jeff Huckabee, a CSU Bakersfield alumnus, is president of Grimway Enterprises, the nation's largest grower of organic vegetables. To give you an idea of the massive scale of the operations Jeff oversees, his company is the largest supplier of organic vegetables to Whole Foods, Albertsons, and Vons, provides a majority of organic carrots sold by Kmart and Kroger, and grows every carrot that Costco sells worldwide. He's been described as a rock star in the produce industry, clearly, and has been farming since age 11. Eric Lockheimer, a San Jose State alumna, is president of engineering for LinkedIn Learning, the professional networking educational platform. In her previous role at LinkedIn, her leadership helped to triple the total member count. Erica's role as a leading female tech executive is showcased in her leadership of LinkedIn's Women in Tech Initiative, the Anita Borg Institute, and the Silicon Valley Women in Engineering program at San Jose State. Lastly, I'd like to tell you about Philip Boutte Jr. If you've been to the movies anytime in the last 2 years, you've seen the work of this Long Beach State alum. Philip has designed costume concepts for Black Panther, A Wrinkle in Time, Captain Marvel, Star Trek Beyond, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Captain America, and Justice League. His work also extends to television, Broadway, and music, including work on Madonna's Rebel Heart Tour and Ariana Grande's first MTV VMA performance. The faces you see on that postcard are just a sampling of the dozens added this year to the Made in the CSU website, which contains hundreds of profiles. I encourage you to visit and browse alumni for campus or by industry. And thank you, Chairman Day. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for being here. Okay, it is now time for the board to consider the items listed on today's consent agenda. All of the committee items requiring full board approval are listed. Does anyone wish to remove any item for separate discussion?
I do.
Trustee Morales, what would you like to
I would
do?
like to remove the audit committee item. I'm
Okay.
vice chair of that committee.
So we will hold off on action on the committee on audit. Any other trustee wish to remove anything else from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve all of the items that are now on the consent agenda, which is everything except audit?
I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion to approve all remaining items on consent is approved unanimously. We will now move then to discussion and vote on the committee on audit. Trustee Morales, would you like to offer comments?
Yeah, I would suggest that there's no need for this action. I think that as it currently stands, we do have our presidents handle these sort of situations at the campus level, and I think that's where they belong. Also, I would support actually this item if instead of saying that that these cases should be referred to the district attorney if they were said that they would be turned over to our insurance carrier. Because they're the ones that deal with these issues, because essentially what we're talking about is theft. And I think we should turn it over to insurer to make the CSU whole. That's where I would suggest, that's where it should be. The way it is written, it is prescriptive, and I think these sort of matters should be at the local level. But again, I would, if the wording would be changed that, that instead of the A would be referred to our insurance carrier, I would support this motion.
Thank you, Trustee Morales. Any other trustee have comments and/or a motion? Trustee Eisen?
I understand Trustee Morales' concern. Whenever you sort of impose more regulations and eliminate discretion in areas that are, cover a wide swath of potential behavior, it worries me that we are not, we're not going to be exercising our judgment, which is what we pay Chancellor White and all of our presidents to do, and they do so well. But I have been convinced by others in various discussions that we do have sufficient discretion remaining in connection with this resolution. It's something that I think it makes sense for us to spend some time thinking about and struggling with before, and I appreciate you taking it off the consent agenda so that we can have this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Eisen. Further comments or questions from the board? Do we have Trustee Fagan?
The reason for this actually is that there have been a number of times when people have the amounts involved of fraud or theft have been ranging to some fairly significant amounts. And for whatever reason, sometimes campuses have not acted to include prosecution. And, the idea behind this is in putting it together, there was a range of discussion about where the amount should be. And some of the people that I talked to on the board had preferred to make it 5,000 with the idea that anyone misusing funds from the CSU, they're basically taking those monies from either students who have paid it in tuition or from taxpayers. And it's incumbent on us to make a very clear and strong statement that that's not an acceptable action, that we have to, we have a trust on behalf of the people, on behalf of the students, to ensure that we watch out for any of these kinds of actions. We have 650,000 people running around here, and a size that, most often it's not students, but it's employees, and many of the students are employees. In towns that are that big, there's huge numbers of police and prosecutors and everything. I think it's admirable that the number of these incidents in a community that large, for us, I don't have any specific numbers, but I get the feeling it's relatively small. So I think our people do a great job in ensuring that this is not common. But with those numbers, the truth is it happens, and it does happen. And there are times when, for whatever reason, campuses have not proceeded to go to the prosecution level, even though what's happening is people are stealing this stuff. I mean, this is a big deal. It's just not right. And to not include this kind of understanding and making it very clear to our community that we take this very seriously and that there are very specific consequences, not just of a discipline, think about what people would do if you walked into a bank and took $20,000 or $50,000. Would you say it's not appropriate to ensure that there's no prosecution? That's what's happening here. I find, quite frankly, this is I'm surprised that there would actually be any objection to this. It's to me, just so clear that we really have to take this responsible action to ensure that, there are specific consequences. And, yes, it is a negative experience for anybody who does something like this. And it would be better for that person if this didn't happen. But, when people break the law, there are those consequences. They have to be held responsible. Keep in mind, we're only turning it over to a prosecutor who then makes the decision. We're not making a decision on whether this person is actually prosecuted or even sentenced or found guilty. But what we are doing is being responsible to our constituents, to our students, to our taxpayers, to all the legislature, and saying, yeah, we're going to take the right action. And quite frankly, if we don't pass this, what kind of message are we sending to the community? We're saying, it's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll take some internal discipline, but those major consequences may or may not happen. And quite frankly, they may or may not happen right now. That's the reality. Sometimes campuses have not sought prosecution. And I can tell you, as the chair of the audit committee, I get copies of the same letters that the chancellor and others get from the campuses describing what these violations are, what the investigations are, what corrective actions are being taken, and whether there are consequences as far as prosecution. And sometimes the amounts are very, very significant, shockingly so. And sometimes there is no action to turn it over to the prosecutor. I say it's our absolute responsibility to ensure that we uphold our responsibility to our constituents and to the people of California. So I would be very, very surprised and really a little appalled if this kind of thing goes down.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. Other comments? Trustee?
The original motion, the
Okay.
original resolution.
We have a motion. We have a second. Trustee Morales.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that folks understand that I'm not supporting criminal acts. I hope that's not a suggestion. What I'm saying is that essentially this should be at the exercise of and decision-making of our able presidents. That's what I'm saying. That's first. Second, what I'm saying is our taxpayers should be made whole. So we should actually turn it over to our carrier. That's what we want to protect, is the assets. Effectively, that in fact, the insurance carrier will turn it over to the district attorney. I mean, that's just what effectively happens. It's just we would not be that prescriptive. That's my objection to the motion.
Just for the record, the resolution does include a statement about fully recovering lost funds.
I understand that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? The motion is to approve the resolution as recommended by the Committee on Audit. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Those abstaining? Motion carries. The board will now adjourn into closed session to discuss executive personnel matters, and we will reconvene for our next regularly scheduled meeting on July 23rd, 24th, 2019, and notice of that meeting will go out in due course, 10 days in advance of the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Live stream. Please adjust your audio accordingly.